He is none other than Tom Izzo. How are you, Coach?
I'm good, Rich. It's hard to believe basketball season's finally arrived. The football winding down there at the end, but I'm good. It's been a pretty good year so far, but unfortunately, we're only halfway done.
Well, I mean, it sounds like where are you in terms of your voice? Are you already in postseason mode with your voice right now, Coach? Seems like
I tell you this every time, that I got a wife, you got a wife. Sometimes you got to tell them, you got to get mad at them, and I yell at my wife at night. That's where my voice goes.
Oh my gosh! Look, I know you. I know Mariucci. I know you're cut from the same cloth. I know you only have.
His wife yells at him.
That's true. You only have one speed. I mean, how are things different? I guess now in your 24th season than in your first in East Lansing, Coach.
Wow. My first, I was, trying to survive, although I think I'm trying to survive now, too. That hasn't changed much. I'd say the biggest thing that changed has been the social media and how you have to deal with things on such a quick, regular basis. But it's really been good. It's been a good run here, and your guys right down the road are having a hell of a year, too. And, it's kind of like state of Michigan right now. We struggled a little bit with our pro sports, but our college sports are doing pretty well.
Yeah, I know. Michigan 2, Michigan State 6, never have been both ranked this high at the same time. What do you think's going on there in the great state of Michigan?
I think that we got the water fixed. I think, we get the water crisis fixed. I mean, it's been good. I mean, I think it's good for the Big Ten too, because all of a sudden the entire league is. I mean, it's as good as it's been, Rich. Better than when you were there in your days. But it's really top to bottom. I think we got 10 teams that have legitimate shots at NCAA tournaments. That would be a record. 7 teams ranked, and Michigan has had a very good year. I guess in our own way, both of us a little surprising. They lost a couple key guys and went to the league, and we lost a couple guys to the league and earlier than graduation, and yet we both have pretty good teams right now.
Yeah, and you don't play each other until first time late February, and then the last game of the year at your
Isn't
house.
That weird?
I know.
It's weird.
What's up with that?
I don't know. I mean, it took us till last year that us and Indiana's, Purdue's, Michigan's, we all kind of complained that we should play each other twice. We only played each other once. I think it was last year, and that's not the way a rivalry should be. And so now we play each other twice, and it's within 12 days of each other or something, and it's at the end of the year. So it's strange, but that's one thing I can't get blamed for not in charge of is the schedule.
That's right. Tom Izzo, Michigan State head coach here on the Rich Eisen Show. How often do you connect with Draymond Green, Tom? How often you connect with him?
I talk to Draymond a lot. I mean, sometimes to keep his head up and to keep his head above water, and sometimes he's trying to keep my head above water. But it's, it's really, Draymond's sometimes misunderstood. I love the guy. He's been not only good to me, but I think he's much needed on that team. He brings something that maybe they don't have, and it's not shooting the ball because they got 3-4 guys that can do that, but it's just kind of bringing a whole group together. And then when you have problems like they had and like he had, not knowing all sides of the story, it's always easy to look at it, but. I know this. I think they'll get back on track, and I think they'll regroup. I still think they're the best team in the league, but you get some pretty good teams out in your area. But Lakers getting better. The Clippers, my man Doc Rivers, he's awesome, and he's done a heck of a job. And even Sacramento's getting better. So the state of California's got some pretty good teams right now.
What do you say is misunderstood about Draymond Green? What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about him?
Well, whenever you're a leader, and I mean, both Steve Kerr and Bob Meyer and everybody there has, said that he's the leader of this team. And when you're a leader, you sometimes got to say things that aren't to everybody's liking, and sometimes you make mistakes in what you say. I mean, I've done that and maybe shut my mouth off when I didn't need to, and other times I did when I did need to, but people didn't agree with it. So I think you get you get misunderstood. The guy's got a heart. I mean, I've seen him at the charity events. I've seen him with kids. I've seen him what he does, and yet sometimes when something goes wrong, you present a different side of him, and I understand that, especially the day and age of the social media. Two words can turn into a whole different meaning of something, as I've learned many a times.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think, and you know what? He's human. He makes mistakes too, and I think, like all of us, we learn from our mistakes, and hopefully they're moving on now. And I still think they'll be, one of the teams knocking at the door at the end of the year.
Tom Izzo, Michigan State head coach here on the Rich Eisen Show. It seems to me that more than ever, anybody that's seated in the top 5 or 6 seeds of a region can win it all. It just seems more wide open. Obviously, we saw what happened. We saw what happened last year, where there were some Cinderella teams. We saw 16 seed win for the first time in quite some time, forever. Why do you think it is, Tom?
Well, Rich, remember back when Steve Smith was here, we played, I think it was Popeye Jones's team, and we were a 1 seed. They were a 16. We went to overtime, and ever since then, I've been a 1 seed a couple times as a head coach, and I feel and Tony Bennett's such a good human being. He handled that thing so well. But that was not a surprise to the coaching world as maybe it was to the rest of the world, because there is getting to be more parity. Kids don't want to play where they got to sit even a year, much less 2 or 3 like it used to be. So I think kids are transferring more. It just there's more volatility. There's more, it's getting harder to maintain a roster. And so sometimes people don't know who they have. There's more distractions out there. I think there's a lot of reasons why it's become a little more like the stock market, up and down, more volatile. And I think that's getting to be the way in all sports. I mean, pro football has made parity kind of really important. I mean, there's so many teams that are 10-8 or 9-9 or, in that area. And I think basketball now at the NCAA level, because every kid thinks he's an NBA player, he doesn't want to go somewhere and kind of go through the process. And so they're going to go to different schools, and some of those schools are going to have success. When we got beat by Middle Tennessee, we were a 2, they were a 15, I think. To be honest with you, we got beat. We shot 50-some% from the field and 48% from the 3 and lost. And we were the number 1 defensive team in the country. We ran into a team that they shot well. We said what was wrong. I said, I'll tell you what was wrong. They played unbelievable that day. And I think that's happening more and more and more.
A couple more minutes left here with Tom Izzo, Michigan State head coach. What do you mean everybody thinks they're an NBA player? Do you have to temper that pretty much? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think anybody that's recruited at this level now, the AU scene, everybody's got to tell them the same thing since they were in junior high school to make sure they get them to the right high school, the right AAU team. And things, there's less than I think it's 0.5% of the players that play basketball will make it to the NBA. And yet, if you talk to most coaches, I think they think that 80% of their team thinks they're getting there. So it's hard, because then there's a lot of disappointment, and when you're on such a fast track to do things, as now everybody thinks that they don't leave by their sophomore year, and it just creates some problems. If somebody asks me, why is your team better? First of all, we're not better than last year. We aren't even a better record than last year right now. But second of all, we went through a lot of things here last year that were distractions. And third of all, maybe the most important one for me right now, our freshmen and sophomores are becoming juniors and seniors. And like Villanova, like Michigan last year, you look at teams in the Final Four, even a team like Loyola had a lot of juniors and seniors on that team. And that's kind of the teams that have been winning it more than the freshman phenoms, who are still very good teams but aren't getting to that ultimate goal.
Yeah. You look up, though, you see Duke with all their freshmen. I mean, it's crazy. What do you think of that kid Zion, Tom? What do you think of him?
I think Mariucci'd like to have him as a linebacker. That's what I think.
I'll tell you, pass rusher. Actually, I mean that kid.
Oh yeah, defensive end. Yeah,
Please.
He is that is a unique human being. I mean, you take all. I looked at LeBron as a sophomore in high school, and if you put those two together, I mean, Zion's bigger than LeBron was, and he is a specimen that can jump out of the gym. But there's a lot of parts to basketball, but right now they've got three really impressive freshmen, and the fourth one might be their Draymond Green. The kid Jones, I think, is the straw that stirs that drink. The point guard, who is probably the least ballyhooed of the bunch, but maybe the most important cog to the wheel.
All right, last one for you, Coach. I don't know if you, obviously you're prepping for Penn State. You're in the midst of your whole season. I don't know if you heard how Sean Payton was trying to motivate the Saints.
Yeah, I did.
You see that?
I did hear that this morning. I'm trying to find that $250,000 in that trophy.
Be careful now. No. You're at a different level. You're not supposed to have that money right in front of the kids.
Yeah.
Be careful.
If I did it here, Uper style, I'd give the guy a burger and a Coke, and that way tell him that if we get to the Final Four, that's what you get.
Uper style, I love that. What's the most effective way you've ever motivated, or the most out of the ordinary way you ever motivated the Spartans before a big game? Anything like that?
God, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably used a lot of different tactics depending on when it is. But one of my favorite things to do is I watch a lot of sports, and as you know, I probably love football more than basketball at times. And I try to look at either press conferences or things people say, or my favorite time of year is anytime there's an NCAA championship, like we just got done with the football, and or if there's an NBA or if there's an NFL, and they do all the human interest stories. Guys like you are talking deeper into people, and you realize that those are motivating stories on how guys go from rags to riches, and people that they didn't think could win it. For us, it was back with all the Flintstones and kind of bringing the pride back to Flint. When you were in school, there were so many athletes that came out of that city, both in football and basketball. A lot of them went to your school. A lot of them went to our school. So I try to find those kind of motivating things. Nothing as crazy as bringing that kind of money in, and if all that else fails, I call Magic and say, "Can you come talk to my team?"
Well, hey, Magic's got a Flint kid in Kuzma right now. He's really enjoying. I'll tell you that.
Oh man, you're not kidding. I saw the end of that 41 last night, and that was pretty impressive, especially without LeBron.
I know. Hey, Coach, thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. Always love catching up with you. I'll tell Mariucci you said hi when I see him in a couple of days.
Rich, I appreciate it. Love your show, and
Thanks.
Keep up the good work.
Same to you. Thanks again.
Hey,
That's
buddy.
you bet. Same to you. That's Tom Izzo at MSU_basketball.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.